Good evening, 7 p.m., and you're live on Zoom now.
All right, thank you, Ben. So let me call the meeting to order, and let's do a pledge. It's behind you. So I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Let me do a roll call. So the mayor's here. Councilmember Gorton.
Here.
Councilmember Smith.
Here.
Councilmember Grant.
Here.
Councilmember Wake.
Here.
Councilmember Glauda.
Here.
Is anyone online by any chance?
Sergey Grasikov is online.
So Councilmember Krasikov, welcome. And I see the city administrator and the city attorney both in person. The deputy city administrator is working behind the curtain. And welcome, everyone. Is there anyone else online for the city? Okay.
No, Mayor.
All right. So the first thing we're doing is a community segment. Dutchess County Planning has very graciously agreed to come down and talk to us about housing. And you have a unique position. One, you've done studies across the county. Two, you kind of watch what everyone is doing, so I think you're in a unique position to kind of give us some guidance. Just for background, the council is looking at different housing policies. Obviously, we're trying to increase housing, but also trying to figure out how to do it in a way that fits for the community and, satisfies, affordability concerns if we can help that along. So if you all introduce yourselves, and then it's all yours. Go right ahead, Gail.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Gail Panalino. I'm the Community Development Administrator, so I oversee the implementation of all of the community development funds.
Bring that down. There you go.
Better? Okay. So that's county, state, and federal funds. And
Okay. Hi, I'm Emily Dozier. I'm a senior planner with Dutchess County. I work in the planning department. I also work in the Transportation Council, so if you ever have transportation-related questions, feel free to reach out. I'm actually the assigned planner for the city of Beacon as of recently, so I'm still learning the city's codes and everything, but that means that I review site plans for certain types of projects in the city on behalf of the county planning department. So that's mostly working with the planning board and the zoning board, but you may see my name on letters every once in a while with recommendations about site plans.
Three of us to come down here. So my name is Paul Hesse. I'm also in the planning department. I work really closely with Gail and Emily, particularly with Gail on the community investment side of things. Gail just mentioned that we oversee the implementation of some of our federal grants, community development block grants and the home investment partnership grant are two notable ones that we've done projects with here in the city of Beacon. So, I've been doing that for a couple of years now. And, happy to be here. So thanks. Yep.
can we have our PowerPoint? Oh, here it comes. Next slide. So I'm going to go over just some of the data. The planning department has three main housing reports. The 2022 housing needs assessment, which is currently being updated by Pattern for Progress. We also do an annual rental housing survey of all of the rentals in the county, subsidized, affordable, and market rate. And that report is voluntary, so we ask developments of 20 or more units to self-report. And we're still working on the 2025 report. And we also do a for sale housing report, which talks about the state of the housing market. And that is also still being worked on for 2025. What you see on the slide is from the 2024 report, and it shows all of the affordable units self-reported from the rental housing survey. And you'll see that Beacon at that point had 17% of the affordable units in the county. Right now, there are about 50 units for rent in Beacon, and the rents range from $1,700 to $4,000 a month. There are 49 homes for sale, and the median sales price for Beacon is $660,000. Next slide. So how did we get to the housing shortage?
So Gail, can you just back up to that
Yeah.
table? I love the data. Thank you for providing it. So you're saying Beacon's providing basically a little bit more than a sixth of the affordable units in the county,
Yes, as of the end of 2024.
and we are less than 5% of the population. Okay.
And then, sorry, can I ask for some clarifications on the data? So the table is the percentage of affordable units. The statistics below that are all units, correct? Not just affordable?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. And then my other question was, you said this is a self-reported survey. Do you know the response rate for the survey of all of the surveys you sent out, what the response rate for that was?
No, we can find out for you.
Thank you.
Just make a note.
I also have one additional question. Just in the list of towns in the county, I see it's not a it's not a full list of every town municipality. Is that because the ones that aren't represented don't have statistically significant data, or that you're not getting data from them,
I think.
or other?
Yes, please.
So I think Gail mentioned that these are, it's self-reported for apartment complexes that are 20 units or more. So what you don't see are some of the smaller, more rural communities here that probably wouldn't have that size of a multifamily building. So they're not here. So it doesn't necessarily mean that they don't have affordable units in their community. They just don't have ones that are in big multifamily developments.
Okay, that helps.
Yep.
Thanks.
And can you share your definition for affordable?
30%, people paying 30% of their income. Below market, yes.
Yeah, below market, and also, I mean, these would be units that are regulated in some way. So, you know, under some sort of regulatory agreement that caps their rents or sets the income limit that a person, you know, must have in order to qualify to live in that unit. So.
But the two are not the same. Below market rate and affordable housing. Affordable, like you said, is 30% of someone's income, and below market rate is just that. So if the market rate jumps to $6,000 for a one bedroom, if they go below the market rate, then that's what they're charging. So that's not affordable. So that wouldn't be within the same category.
Yeah, I think it's a great distinction, and I just what I'd offer here, I think the best way to talk about these units right here that you see in this list, these are subsidized units, capital A affordable, rents capped. So right, so these are not you know these more expensive units where somebody's still paying 30% of their, you know, or more than 30%. Maybe that's not an affordable unit. These are subsidized through some sort of government funding, and then they're regulated. So that's what we're capturing here in this table.
Right. I think the point that I'm hearing Listar make is that there is still a bracket of folks who may be part of a program that says that a unit is below market rate, but because and that may be through a federal program of some kind, but because that rent is still 30% more than, for example, the area median income, that's not actually affordable by your other definition. Is that correct?
So the one thing I would add too is, Paul, I think this would also include developer subsidized units as well, not just necessarily some sort of a federal or tax subsidized unit. Right, so for instance, our 10% inclusionary zoning it should be included in this.
It's a good point there. And actually, I don't know that I can answer this for you right off the fly here, and I would love to get back to you about this. So units that are required per an inclusionary zoning policy, are they captured in these? Because I think most of these are seen. Neither of us actually do this report. So
Yeah, I think they are, because
Yeah.
you know, most of them in Beacon are operated by Hudson River Housing, and you know, it's a structured program
Yeah.
required by law. So I think that would fit within the definition,
Yeah.
but you can confirm.
I will confirm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And not all of them are 20 units or more, which maybe also is a way they're not included in your program.
if those units don't appear in
A building
in a
that-
building that is 20 units or more, no,
Yeah.
they wouldn't be captured in this. That's right. Yep.
And I would also suggest, and we'll have the link at the end, that you, if you want to know the data and the method, that you look at, it's actually in the introduction of the rental housing survey, and it will probably explain it much better than we just did.
Great.
Anything else, or I should go on? Next slide, please. So back to how we got here. So Dutchess County and many communities in the Hudson Valley are experiencing flat population, but the household size is decreasing. So for the same number of people, we now need more units. And incomes have lagged behind housing costs. So housing costs are rising very quickly, as we all know, but income is not rising at the same rate. Renters in our county are severely cost burdened, and incomes are increasing faster at the top than they are at the bottom. We also have escalating construction costs, and interest rates have been really high, so new units have been very slow to come online. Next slide, please. So that gives us a gap. Across the county, we have a gap in need for housing, both at the top and at the bottom. So the lack of units at the bottom and at the top means that people with the highest income rent units below what they can afford, and it continues to market pressure down. And is that me causing that? And eventually it just pushes out the people at the bottom. So it means the people with the lowest income have the hardest time finding housing that they can afford. Next slide, please. Next slide, please.
I think they're working on the tag issue.
So while we're waiting for the slide, I just want
Yeah.
to clarify the chart. So this is, the gap analysis chart, the bar
So
chart.
this is just Beacon.
This is just Beacon, correct? So for this, these are current homeowners with these incomes and the units available to, like, what is
These are rental, not homeowner.
the previous?
The previous one was homeowner and rental,
Yes.
but I'm speaking mostly about rental. the
Yeah,
gap.
I understand. I'm just trying to understand the chart. So we're saying, where does the income levels come from? Is this like a census survey? Like, where is the data coming from, this
The
chart?
census.
Okay, thank you.
And these are also still from the 2022 needs assessment, so, which I mentioned we are updating. But I
Okay.
think we're going to find, I don't think much has changed as far as the shortage and who's struggling the most to find affordable housing.
Okay, yeah, the chart is labeled 2019, so that's where the confusion is. Thank you.
Any other questions on the gap? Okay. So this is from also from the housing needs assessment, and the consultants recommended a certain number of interventions per year, which would eventually get the county to a level of housing units that they recommended. And you can see that for Beacon, the recommendation was 5 per year. So Beacon's clearly doing way better than that. So since 2012, if you look at the units that have been either built or under construction, about 25% of the units in Beacon are affordable. So Beacon's way ahead of the recommendations from the needs assessment. Any questions?
And again, you use that term affordable, and I think to be more precise, using Paul's definition, it would be in some fashion subsidized by law.
Yes,
Right.
capital A affordable,
Yeah.
not naturally recurring affordable.
I don't know if this question is better suited later to what we're talking about, but when we're looking a few slides back at that gap analysis, I'm struck that the sort of cap of $100,000 plus, which is the income number that we're looking at. Still knowing that this is income reported in 2019, so part of the 2020 census, is my understanding, is still $100,000 for a household is still under our area median income for a household. And so I'm a little concerned, or I'm trying to wrap my head around the best way to think about the folks who are rent burdened alongside this, what most of this graph is people who, if I'm understanding the definitions correctly, are still rent burdened. Does that make sense?
I'm thinking about it.
There's a deficit of 6,000. I'm looking at owners
Yep.
here because
You're
why
the
not?
owner. Okay.
Because that's the clearest graph.
Yep.
There are about 6,000. We're missing about 6,000 units for people who make more than $100,000. So we're missing about 6,000 units for people who make at or above the area median income. And then we're missing about 6,000 units for people who make about half of the area median income. And then we do have a surplus of units for people who are right in between there. If I'm looking also at our sort of basic census data, it seems like anyone who would be considered rent burdened is going to be in this window here, but I'm just trying to match up these income numbers with the folks who are most rent burdened.
Well, that's not in this chart.
Yeah, and also, I don't know that, I don't think you can see it from this chart, because just because someone might make 50% of area median income doesn't mean that they are rent burdened, because maybe they got lucky.
Sure.
So I
But
think
if
need
we-
some additional information.
Yeah,
is what-
I guess the piece of data that I'm looking at specifically is that the median gross rent in 2020 was, according to this, census.gov, which is not in this chart, was about $1,600, which puts anybody who is making the per capita median income, which is $59,000, that puts their median gross rent outside of 30% of their income. So I'm wondering if I'm correctly characterizing anybody who makes a household income in Beacon less than $100,000 on average as being rent burdened.
I think that's a fair conclusion, but I also think there is more data out there that we could find just to prove your point.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank
And-
you for
And if
going
you
on
want
that journey with
contact
me.
information, all of our contact information will be at the end, and we can continue this
Yeah.
conversation. Any other questions for me?
Nope, keep going. Thank you.
So next slide, thanks, Ben. Okay, so that's just some context and some data for like the big picture of things. We started looking at inclusionary zoning because we understand you're revisiting that policy. So what we did is take a scan of all 30 municipalities in Dutchess County at their codes, just to understand kind of the landscape of inclusionary policies across the county. So of the 30 municipalities in Dutchess, 12 have inclusionary zoning policies. About half of those are mandatory, which means it requires, as does Beacons, that you provide a certain percentage of below market rent units for certain types of projects. So half are those mandatory types and about half are optional, which gives developers an option for some benefit. And we'll talk more about that. Pretty much all of those mandatory policies require 10% of the units to be affordable or below market rate if there are 10 or more units in the project. So that's what Beacon's policy says, and that's consistent across the county for these mandatory policies. There are a few that have a fee option, so the developer can pay a fee instead of providing the units within the project, and that provides some flexibility in certain cases. So that's something you could take into consideration. Of the 12 policies, all but one have some type of incentive. I think the one that doesn't, they probably wrote it a long time ago and weren't thinking too hard about it. But in general, having an incentive is part of the deal. So if you provide some below market rate units, whether it's mandatory or optional, you get some benefit, right? So in general, the most common benefit is what's called a density bonus. So you would get more units overall in your project than what would be typically allowed. So for the most part, most of these policies have a 50% bonus. So that means if you provide, say, 10 below market rate units in your project, you would get 5 additional units total in the project. So it allows you to do a little bit more density, a little bit more units total, which helps offset the cost because all this stuff costs, right? Costs money. In some cases, other policies allow a smaller lot size, minimum lot size, or a height bonus. So for example, City of Poughkeepsie, they just updated their code fairly recently, and in some of the districts in the city, they allow between 1 and 3 additional stories on buildings as an incentive to provide those below market rate units.
Couple questions for you.
Sure.
For these zoning policies, are these all only taking into account workforce affordable housing, or is there other kind of, because ours is only for workforce affordable?
Yeah, so some of them define it. I know that yours has certain percentages of area median income and all of that. Some go into that same level of detail, and some are much more super kind of general, I should say.
Okay.
So they all do not designate a certain income level.
Okay.
Yeah.
And do you ever see anything that's maybe a hybridization of these approaches where you have maybe the mandatory 10% and then the incentive kind of comes in above that for maybe the 50% example you talked about? Is that anything that people do?
That's a good question. I'm trying to remember because I have a spreadsheet which I could send to you guys because
that would be great. That's
there's a lot of detail in some of these policies. Certainly some of them have steps. So if you provide a certain percentage for the optional ones, if you provide a certain percentage of below market rate units, you might get a certain benefit.
Okay.
If you provide more than that, you get a better, more of a benefit. So there are ways to kind of calibrate it.
Okay.
And to provide that kind of additional incentive.
Okay, that
Yeah.
spreadsheet would be probably
Sure.
very fun.
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
Thank you.
I like the way you're thinking.
And then, throughout the county, are there any rules around allocation of units? So you have a new housing development, you get some affordable units. Is it first come, first serve in most places? Are there lottery systems in places in some areas?
Yeah, the policies don't always get into that. Some of them do have local preferences. I'm trying to remember if yours does, but I know some of them, if you're if you work for the municipality, if you're a teacher, or, different categories. So there are some priorities in that way. And then others don't get into that level of detail again. So, yeah, it varies. But the spreadsheet, it has all the links to E-code. If you're familiar with E-code,
Love
it's
E-code,
a
yeah.
wealth of information, so you can have fun with that.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure. So I did want to say just a little bit about Beacon's policy. Now, as I said, I'm still learning the code. You guys probably know it much better than I do. But so basically, it's the 10% for projects of 10 units or more, right? And it allows that 0.5 additional unit per the below market rate units, up to 10 maximum additional units. That's one of the incentives. My understanding is that some of the districts, the Central Main Street District, the Linkage District, and the train station don't actually have caps on the number of units in those districts, right? It's not capped in the
Central
same way.
Main Street, there is probably a cap due to the number of stories
The height
can't exceed.
limit.
So there's inherently a little bit of a cap there because of that, although it is not a unit cap. It's a height cap.
Yeah. So you know, you can think about it in terms of how effective are the incentives you're providing, because in some ways where you might be getting some of your development, those districts, the incentive of an additional half unit may not really work or may not be as full of an incentive, you know? It may, because they are already not limited in the number of units. So that's just something to think about. I know there's also a 4th story allowed. I think it's in the Central Main Street and the Fishkill Creek district, maybe. But those require a special permit. And so, you know, that's another hurdle maybe for a developer who wants to do something if they have to go through another kind of process, bureaucratic process. These are just things to consider when you're looking at the policy. You know, how hard do you want to make it? How much flexibility do you want to provide? And so you might think about streamlining some of those things or creating more incentives. And I know there's some other language in there too about the planning board can modify other dimensional requirements like setbacks and so on. But again, that's up to the planning board. And, you know, some planning boards, maybe yours is, I don't know them yet, but maybe they're very free and easy with these types of things, but some are not. And so giving them the discretion can make it unpredictable for a developer. And so, again, that's just another barrier or makes it a little bit harder or less of a clear incentive. Okay, so that's just the inclusionary zoning landscape, and I would say generally Beacon is in line with what we're seeing across the county for those that do have these policies. But I can say in the spreadsheet and you can get into the details. Thanks. Okay, I'm going to
Do you know if any other municipalities are revisiting the inclusionary zoning limits?
Sorry, Sergey, I didn't quite hear you on that.
Do you know if any other municipalities are looking to update the inclusionary zoning rules?
Not that I'm aware of. So the city of Poughkeepsie was probably the most recent? Yeah. We can ask the other planners in our office and see if they're aware, because we do get code revisions sent to us to take a look at sometimes, but not that I'm aware of. Yeah.
Can I pull one thread here?
Sure.
I was surprised to hear that you said a lot of other policies don't dictate the area median income percentage when they define workforce housing. How does that work if there's not a range defined?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I know some of them do, like you do, but not all, from what I saw. So I guess they're using, I don't know, they're using the standard like area median income and having the developers do the calculations and saying it has to be below market rate. But I don't know that they target specific income levels in the same way.
I'm curious because one of the ideas that's been thrown around, I mean, this is going back to why I was poking at that graph before, that my concern is that our current percentage, which is focused on 70 to 80% area median income, might actually be falling in that green zone of we actually have plenty of those units. And so trying to understand if there are ways that we can push our policy to somehow balance out to have more of those less than 70% median income units. I know that I'm kind of conflating here owner data versus renter data, but trying to, parse all of it out. Is that something that your spreadsheet might address?
You could take a look at it. I mean, we'll get into this more. I would just say that the lower you push that income level, the more expensive it gets for the developer.
Right. So we might get fewer of those 50% units, but if that's actually what the city needs, I think that's data that I'd be interested in.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think what we're also going to talk about in a minute here is other things you can think about. So I think you're focused on this policy, which is good, but there's like a whole universe, right? And the housing market is so complex, and there's a lot of other things you can also think about in terms of addressing your concerns with housing and affordability. So we'll talk more about that. But I wouldn't I would caution against putting all your eggs in the inclusionary zoning basket.
Totally.
So just to provide some historical context, the the inclusionary zoning was designed to get at workforce housing, and that's what it's called. And again, it was viewed as a gap. Largely historically, we have a number of large developments that are focused on lower income, right, through the Beacon Housing Authority, through other programs. And so the view was that was sort of the gap that could be addressed on that issue at that time, right? Not to say there aren't other gaps, but that was the logic.
Okay, that's helpful, thanks.
So I have one more thread to
That's
pull. When we're talking about a density bonus, one of the policies that we've talked about at this table is making the minimum unit size smaller. And I'm curious how that policy should be thought of in tandem with using a density bonus as like a carrot for developers.
Yeah, I mean, in general, I would say providing flexibility in unit size is a good thing to do. And it may be that there's other types of housing that aren't being provided right now that could be provided. And maybe it's not even through this policy, right, but through other zoning reforms or changes that would make it easier or more legal to provide micro units, to provide you know, different types of housing that are those small units, which are inherently more affordable.
Right.
Yeah. But I'll turn over to Paul. We're going to tag team this last part here.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
While you're changing, I have a quick question, and this is probably more question to us as a city of Beacon to find out how many of the current developments actually took density bonus. I think that would be helpful to know.
Yeah, we don't have that data offhand here, but yeah, that would be interesting to see who's taking advantage of the density bonus. So yeah.
So that'll be one of our follow-ups, either the city attorney or the planner. Because as I understand it, the development is occurring in zones that are now in form-based zoning. So
Right.
that don't have limits in terms of number of units.
Sure. So this is a really good segue. The question about deeper affordability and other ways to enable development to actually happen, because as you know, Emily said, everything has a cost, right? So you know, you are all wrestling with you know, a housing policy trade-off here. You know, how do we allow affordable housing to be built, but how do we make sure that we're not totally making it harder to build housing generally, right? So you know, just on a very basic level, of course, inclusionary zoning requires, you know, units to be affordable. Rents are going to be capped at some level. You know, every community may do it differently. There may be different affordability levels, but rents are capped. So therefore, you are reducing the amount of income that a project can generate. So when you're lowering the income that a project can generate, you're lowering kind of the overall value of that project, but the costs of building and the cost of operating these developments, of course, don't change. So we've created a gap. We've introduced a gap. And you know, that gap has to be absorbed somewhere. To you know, get kind of folksy with it, you know, there's no such thing as a free lunch, right? So you know, either the developer's going to eat it on the margins, or you know, perhaps they borrow more to make the development happen. You know, maybe assuming that you know, a lender is still able to underwrite a project, you know, with these requirements. It might be that the market rate units are, you know, the rents are increased in order to balance, you know, the lower rents on the restricted units. You know, that's a possibility. Or it's possible that just the development doesn't happen at all. That's a possibility too. As I'm sure that you know, everyone today has a really high floor when it comes to construction costs and to operating costs. But not everyone has such a high ceiling that you can bank on cross-subsidy, you know, those market rate units to balance out and basically, you know, make a mixed income project viable. Beacon's maybe in the best position out of you know, maybe any community in Dutchess County, but there's a limit. I think, you know, there's a limit, and sometimes deals might just not happen. And that's the risk that we take. That's the risk that we take when we put in an inclusionary zoning policy like this. Fewer projects might move forward. You might get less units overall. You might get less units that were affordable that you might have otherwise gotten. It's a risk. And just as a side note, for the last few years, I've been working on the funding side of housing, and it's made me really appreciate the fact that land use approvals is not the end of the story. I spent 10 years prior to that, being a municipal planner and watching projects kind of slowly march their way through getting, environmental reviews done and, zoning board and planning board and getting their site plans. And then I'd be really excited about, a great new project that's gonna have a bunch of new units or more commercial space or whatever. And, a year might go by and then another year might go by and then another year and all of a sudden, what happened to that project? I've really come to understand that projects often go to die when they try to finance. Interest rates are always changing, land costs are always changing, labor costs, materials costs, these are really dynamic things that change a lot faster than policies do. It's a really dynamic thing. World events happen, tariffs and supply chain issues and immigration policy that makes labor challenging, things like that happen. So, it's a risky business, and oftentimes projects just don't pencil out. So when you have policies like this, it's important to really calibrate them to make sure that you're not unintentionally kind of kinking the hose of development and shutting that off. So as Emily talked about, and as I understand, it's just sort of like best practice, and what I observe is that inclusionary zoning works best when it is paired with incentives and or just straight up external subsidies to make it work. I think about this as a sort of value exchange. We're asking developers to come in and provide a public benefit, affordable housing, and in exchange, we offer something, and it could be, these incentives like Emily talked about, it's density bonuses or it's streamlined approvals process or reduced parking requirements, or maybe it's tax relief. That's something that is often needed for these projects. So if you don't provide anything in return, it does kind of start to look like a tax on development. You start to run the risk of sending a bad signal to the development community. So it's just it's a consideration, just to be careful, with how far you push this. And it's, this is not about saying no to stronger affordability requirements. It's just about making sure that, when you make a tweak to a policy, you get the result that you were after, which is more affordable housing. I mean, that's the goal that we're all after here, is more affordable housing. But I think of it as a, sort of a both and, provide as much affordable housing as possible, but also providing relief to the market overall by providing more units. So need to be careful not to shut down the whole development pipeline. So you might ask, like, what's the right number for Beacon? You're at 10% right now. Does it make sense to go more? Ben, can you go to the next slide, actually? The sort of like unsatisfying answer I'm about to give you is that I don't know. I'm sorry to say I don't have an answer for you, but I think that if Ben goes to the next slide, when Ben, there he is. Yeah, so I think that there's an opportunity for you all as you're considering a policy change. I think there's an opportunity for you to do some additional due diligence and kind of triangulate, the right number by talking to, various, actors within this housing ecosystem. You can talk to the developers. You know your developers. You may trust your developers. I hope you do. But don't just take their word at it. Really, I would talk to the lenders. Talk to the banks. Understand what how they think about affordability requirements, and how they size their loans based on what affordability requirements are imposed on them from the municipality. How much debt can a development afford when you've got that much less income being generated from the project? Lenders are going to know this really quickly, and they're going to be able to put together a spreadsheet for you and help you understand this. I think that it would be a lot of fun, and I would be very happy to go on this journey with you, because I love learning about this stuff too, and I'm not an expert in it. But I think that there is something here between understanding what your market is, talk to the appraisers, talk to the brokers, talk to the developers, talk to the lenders. You know, somebody like Community Preservation Corporation, right? Mission-driven lender. I know that they've come here to talk to this body before. Have them back. Have them back and have a conversation. Get Doug Olcott or somebody like that in here would be great. That I think would be a great first step, you know, to continuing to explore this idea. So I don't remember what's next. Ben, can you go to the next slide? Oh, great.
Okay, I'm back. So we've talked a little bit about affordable. We mentioned this concept of affordable with a capital A. That means like subsidized with rent restrictions, you know, there's some kind of legal arrangement. But affordable housing can also be lower A affordable, which means housing that is smaller, it's maybe a different format. There's a lot of different types of housing than just, you know, single family and apartments, right? And so something to just think about is more broadly, what are you doing to help that lower A affordable housing exist in Beacon? And I know you're already doing a lot. So for example, accessory dwelling units or ADUs. I know you recently updated the city's code to allow accessory dwelling units in all districts with no additional parking required, which is great. That's best practice. So that's something you're already working on. Something if you wanted to consider for ADUs, some municipalities, including Kingston and New York City recently have created pre-approved site plan or pre-approved designs or plans for ADUs. So again, that's about the streamlining that whole process of approvals. You know, they've done things like design competitions, right? And so it's kind of an interesting way to say, how do we make this easier, right? Because building a backyard cottage or whatever it is not for everyone, and it's not so as easy as it might seem. And so just ways to make it easier. Parking reform. People don't always think about parking reform and housing in the same breath, but in a lot of cases, parking requirements actually drive housing development. How much housing you can build depends on the parking that you're requiring. And so if you require 1.5, 2 parking spaces per unit, it means you can build fewer units because you have to provide that space for the parking. So I know this is something the city's also worked on and has reformed your code. It's pretty good. It provides a decent amount of flexibility. I believe you eliminated minimums in certain districts, reduced them in others. You have maximums, so that's all great. You allow land banking, so there's some flexibility. Someone might think you need a lot of parking, but maybe you don't, and so you can preserve some land that just in case, but you start with less, which is good. So that's all good. In terms of parking, the national best practice is to actually reduce or remove minimum requirements altogether. If you want, we can send you all kinds of fun information on this too. But in that case, the applicant would propose something that they think is reasonable based on the use, the context, the location, the demand, and sometimes a negotiation to a certain extent. But that's something to think about, further providing even more flexibility even for certain, maybe it's smaller projects, small projects under a certain size, reuse or reconstruction. There's a lot of ways to do it, but parking flexibility is really helpful for making housing more affordable. Short-term rentals, I don't think you've maybe started on this, but I think you're planning to work on short-term rentals. So this is also an important piece of the puzzle because a lot of times these, take housing out of the market, right? And so making sure that there's some restrictions or at least some parameters for short-term rentals so it doesn't reduce the overall housing supply. That's important. So those three I put on the top because I think you're well on your way on those. Other things to consider, and I don't know as much about where you are with these, but streamlining the permitting process, I've mentioned that a couple times. This is something where, you could have that roundtable with some of the developers that work in the city. You could talk to your planning board and building department and figure out where are those pain points. If someone wants to build a project, they want to provide housing in the city, but it's taking them 3 years to get through the process, that's costing them money. Every step of that is costing money, which ends up raising the rent or the housing price. So whatever you can do, you want to have your checks and you want to have your basic requirements, but you don't want to make it overly onerous So if there's ways to streamline that process, that can help increase affordability as well. Looking at your bulk regulations, so those are the things like the minimum setback, how far the building has to be from the front or the side, the building coverage, all of that is the details of your zoning code basically, and you may have already been looking at this, I'm not sure. But just taking a look, having your planner take a look at that, seeing if there's any ways to provide more flexibility in those bulk regulations, because a lot of times those start hampering in what you can do, and it may be restricting the housing that you want. Let's see. Missing middle housing, you may have heard this term. It's basically something between the single family and the apartment complex, so triplex, fourplex. There's lots of different housing types, and there's fun websites you can look at for missing middle typologies. And so looking at your codes, figuring out, maybe talking to some of your developers, how hard or easy is it to do these different types of housing, given the current laws in your code? I know you did add two-family as a permitted use in a lot of your residential districts recently, and you reduced some minimum lot sizes in other areas, so those are all good things. But there may be a little bit more you can do to make those other types of housing, which tend to be smaller, tend to be more affordable, making those more viable. Small-scale builders, I don't know the construction landscape in Beacon super well, but there may be folks who know the kind of city's process and they know how to get things done, and there may be others who would like to build a fourplex, a cottage court, or some interesting new type of housing, but are intimidated by the process, don't really know, or don't want to deal with all the bureaucracy. And so, it might be worth thinking about how you can support those folks to bring some different types of developers into the mix, who are doing different things, maybe smaller projects that a bigger developer it's not worth it to them to do. And so maybe it's just some technical assistance, maybe it's a forum, maybe it's, just reaching out and talking to some lenders or others who may have been approached by these folks. It's just something to think about. Small scale developers, it's kind of a niche thing that a lot of people don't have the capacity to do and need some assistance to get started. And then the last item here is about these tax abatement programs. Paul mentioned this briefly. There are ways to reduce taxes for some of these types of projects. I know the City of Kingston has a program under this section 421P. So you could reach out to the City of Kingston. Chris, you may know more about this than I do.
We did a 421F.
Oh, okay.
For accessory apartments.
Oh, okay, great. Yeah, that's good to hear. Okay, so you're well versed in this. So that's just another option. Anything you can do, of course, to lower the cost, right, is going to end up with more affordability. So these are just, when I mentioned earlier, thinking more broadly about the landscape, not putting all your eggs in this inclusionary zoning basket. These are some of the things I would recommend, and I know, like I said, you're well on your way, so we really do commend you. City of Beacon is well ahead of most in this regard, but there's always more to be done, as we know. So, Paul, you're back.
One last slide. I know that we've taken a lot of your meeting here, so I don't want to go too much longer. I just wanted, what do we offer? What does county planning bring to the table here with respect to housing? Just a few things. The county's got a couple of funding programs, funding programs that my predecessor Ann Saylor did with the City of Beacon many years ago, back in the 90s. The Home Investment Partnership Program is a great program. It's federally funded. We administer that program on behalf of the entire county, and this is essentially a loan program for incentivizing affordable housing, long-term affordable housing, 15, 20 years affordable. So we also have a much newer sort of sister program called the Housing Trust Fund that you've probably heard of. We've had a couple of rounds of that. We'll have another round coming out later this month. We produce annual housing reports. Gail talked about this. So we've got the for sale rental reports. We've got the for sale housing report. the rental housing survey and the for sale housing report. We've got an owner-occupied property rehab program that we've done for many years. Used to be senior only. Now this is open to non-seniors as well. So this is all in an effort to, keep people in their homes, keep the housing stock in, reasonably good repair, so that the next generation can take that housing on. It's all a means of like preserving housing. And lastly, just on our bullet here, I would be in trouble if I didn't mention this new affordable housing series, strategies series that we have just released. It's on the website. There's a link, maybe in the next, somewhere here. There's a link. Oh, there's a hot link right there. Anyway, so this is kind of best practices, case studies for what folks are doing around the country to address their affordable housing issues. So I think the point I'm trying to make is that we hope that you see us as a resource and a friend and an ally, and we are here to help you. So please reach out. And the next slide has our contact information, so we don't need to talk about that, but if you have any more questions, I think we'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I have so many questions,
Oh.
but no one at this table is surprised by that. But I'll just keep it to one, which is one area that we've talked a lot about is, one of our greatest deficits in terms of affordable housing is people who are making 30% or less area median income. Obviously, no zoning policies that we can do here can address that. What we do have is the Beacon Housing Authority, and those organizations are more set up to actually meet those needs. What are things, though, that we can do on the city level to support that? What are resources that the county offers that might support, our housing authority being fully resourced and potentially even building their own more housing?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. I will admit that I have very little interaction with either of the housing authorities. Beacon's got a housing authority, Poughkeepsie has a housing authority, and they kind of operate independently from the county. I would wager actually the city might have more to say about the housing authority than I do. But typically when you're looking at the deeper affordability, the 30% AMI, I can think of low-income housing tax credit projects, right? And that's a public-private partnership. Those are the kinds of things that the county often gets involved in because we come in as gap financiers or teaser funding that LIHTC developers, low-income housing tax credit developers, will come in, get a local commitment from Dutchess County for a few $100,000s of home. They go after the big money for tax credits through the state and the feds. And that's how they get to provide affordable, deeply affordable units. I am not an expert enough to talk to you about the housing authority, so it's an excellent question, and I think that all avenues should be pursued. I can't answer that for you right now, but yeah.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
And thank you so much for entertaining all of our questions.
Appreciate it.
And Paul, didn't the county invest in 2 Cross Street?
We did, yeah. So there's a project on Cross in Maine,
Which
that
is
you're
all
looking at
affordable.
right now.
I'm not sure at what level.
Yep. So they actually have some units that have the eShy vouchers that are coming from the state. So that is deeply affordable. It's a voucher program, and I do believe that those folks, and I don't remember how many vouchers, maybe 9 vouchers for folks making 30% AMI. So that's an 18-unit project. Yep, we do have money in that one. So.
And that money's out of the Housing Trust Fund?
Both Housing Trust Fund and the Home Investment Partnership. So
Yeah,
we have
okay.
both of our programs in that one. Yep. Good project. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, I'm very appreciative, and I think we all are. You have a font of knowledge, and a lot of us are still learning. We always view county planning as a partner, and we look forward to picking your brain some more and asking your advice, so thank you.
Truly happy to come down anytime, so thank you.
Okay, that's our community segment. So next we'll do public comment. This is the first opportunity for public comment. You can talk on any subject that you wish for up to 3 minutes. My only request is we always keep it civil. And let's see what we got. On the sign-up sheet, I've got Arthur Kamens. Come on up.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Arthur Kamens, 39 Rombat Avenue. I came because I wanted to hear this presentation, and thank you very much for that. It was kind of overwhelming. I don't know. Maybe you have the paper in front of you. Maybe it was a little less overwhelming for you than me and anyone who happens to be listening. But I guess if I listen to it from the perspective of people who are being crushed by the affordability crisis, I don't think they would take much solace in what they heard. A whole lot of it was based on the needs of developers and lenders. And obviously, they play a big part. But I think the public needs to hear it from a different perspective. Because one thing is absolutely clear, is that affordability of housing is probably the biggest concern of people. It's the thing that is making people feel most insecure. And I think one that has to be addressed, but the public needs to hear something different from the council so they can get some sense that the thing that is driving them most crazy is being considered from their perspective. And so just a couple of quick things. One is the parameters around what we heard were really about Dutchess County. And I think we need to have a much wider perspective than that with respect to the issue of affordability and what could be done. Because even if Beacon is doing more than other municipalities in the county, that's completely irrelevant to the people who can afford to buy a house or can afford to pay their rent. I don't know how many people we've heard from, I couldn't move to be, I'm retired. I have a decent income, but not a lot. But there's no way I could afford to move here today. No way. And we hear that from a whole lot of people. And so the other thing I would say is I think we need to push a bit more on the issue of whether we can change our affordability criteria with respect to below market rate housing. I think it's an untested assumption that gets asserted over and over and over again that if we don't provide certain incentives, no one will come to build. I don't know if that's true. I'm not saying it isn't true, but I don't know that it is, and I don't think it's been addressed, and I think we need to address that. So my time's up, so thank you.
Thank you very much. Teresa Kraft.
Good evening. Teresa Kraft, concerned resident. Tonight's affordable housing presentation had data from 2019, and the housing data on page 2 from early 2024 is already obsolete. Speak to the residents and they will say there is no affordable housing in Beacon. It also notes a fee in lieu of units. Instead of offering these units, we will continue to see big pocket developers coming in to build, paying that fee, and intentionally locking out subsidized renters. The big question these days is where was the citywide robocalls, emails, and text alerts? A one-time release of 3,000 gallons into the Fishkill Creek is a significant environmental event and should have required closures of recreational areas and containment efforts. Environmental and health officials recognize this volume as a major incident, yet residents were not alerted. Not everyone is on social media. Although aluminum sulfite is not the most toxic chemical, it can cause skin and eye irritation, as well as respiratory issues like coughing and wheezing. I have congestive heart failure. Someday I'm going to be on the ground. Thank you. Chronic health effects may arise after exposure, and potential to cause cancer in animals has never been tested. The day after the leak, a trash fire occurred at Baylor Recycling, which is also located next to the Fishkill Creek. All that water that were hosing it down, which ran down into the creek, Ward 4 residents will feel these effects. Let's talk about acid rain and Earth Day. The mayor controls most city decisions, including appointments and key positions like city administrator, which should have been publicly advertised. That is only 9 full weeks and only 6 council meetings to update residents on the progress on this major shift in the city. Again, not everyone is on social media. During the recent meeting that lasted only 60 minutes, it was clear that decisions were made ahead of time and boards are approving projects based on outdated comprehensive plan that offers limited protections, especially to our disappearing historic districts, view sheds, and open green spaces. Residents often find their concerns go unheeded when they seek council assistance. Perhaps we should disband this city and go back to the town it was formed from. That is how we should celebrate the Rev 250. Also include the Village of Fishkill. We don't need 3 of every public service. Let's further reduce bureaucracy, cutting waste in government, real estate, and operational costs. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else in the physical public want to speak? All right. Anyone online? And Dutchess County Planning, thank you and good night.
Thank you.
Ben?
Mayor, we have no hands raised on Zoom right now.
Okay, let's do a public hearing, although it's very straightforward. There was to be a public hearing concerning the Historic District and Landmark Overlay Zone, some additional nominations, and I'm just going to look for a motion and a second to adjourn that hearing to April 20th, because we haven't met all the deadlines with respect to sending notices.
Motion.
Second?
So that was Grant and Wake in terms of motion and second. Any discussion? And Nick, what was our issue in terms of notice? Is that what it was?
It was just an issue with getting the publication in the newspaper, meeting their print deadline.
Okay.
So this will be noticed and a letter sent out for the April 20th public hearing.
Okay. Any comments or questions from council?
No.
All right. So all in favor of adjourning the public hearing on the HDLO zone nomination, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? And then Sergey, your vote on that?
Aye.
Okay, I will ask you individually, or just, after we vote, just say aye or nay, okay? Thank you. All right, so now we're doing the workshop portion of our meeting, and we've got a number of appointments. The first one is the appointment of Ben Swanson to the position of City Administrator. I'll discuss that first. I sent you an email, a note, council members, and I'll just read a little bit of it. It's also in the packet so everyone can see it. So as I put it, Ben's appointment should come as no surprise. Right? We created last December the position of Deputy City Administrator with the expectation that this sort of succession planning that's done in professional organizations is an appropriate step for us to ensure leadership, continuity, and stability. We then appointed Ben to that position in reflection of his accomplishments and as our expected choice in the event of a leadership change. Ben has my full endorsement and confidence and ability to undertake this role. His graduate education, his professional background, his 4 years of experience with the city, and the many managerial roles he has taken on since joining us. We've got a list of those tasks in a separate sheet, and we've also attached the memo that Chris put together when we were asking that he be appointed to the position of Deputy City Administrator. In terms of succession planning, this might not have been quite as, a little quicker than I had in mind, but this is exactly the reason we do this. And so I heartily recommend Ben's appointment. I'm happy to open up a discussion.
So I do have a few things to say. I do believe that this process was rushed, and I believe that it should have been opened up to the public a little bit more, though I know it has been made the deputy. That has been for 3 months. In Article 3, it states that they should have at least 1 year of special training in public administration and finance and 3 years of successful experience in responsible exception of position in government. He was your secretary, correct, prior to being the deputy administrator? He hasn't been under Chris that long as the deputy, so I'm not sure that he has the experience, though he may have the education. In prior appointments, we have gotten a copy of the resume. I don't have his resume. I don't have his history. The only thing I know is he was your assistant mayor and then made the deputy administrator in January. So though I believe Ben can handle it, I would probably feel more comfortable if it was interim and we can go through more applicants that may be more suitable and Ben can remain the deputy after that. But I do feel this process was rushed.
I would just say that Ben has been serving as the deputy for more than 2 years at least in this capacity. I would say since he got here, he has been taking on increasing levels of executive leadership and agency. This used to be a secretary to the mayor position, and with the former person, it was. When Ben came on, it was very evident that he could take on more. So he's been supervising contractors that we work with, such as our Energy Smart person. He's been dealing with projects. He's been in meetings with me. He's covered department head meetings when I'm not there. So I would just say, if I had any doubt about this, I wouldn't have suggested we appoint him as deputy. My only regret, I haven't even announced my retirement in this forum, but I guess everybody can guess I'm retiring in June. And I would just say my only regret from these 5 years is that I didn't push to appoint him years earlier, because he's been serving in that way, and his capacities are clearly shown in what he's produced here.
Okay, so that's good to know. That's more
I just want to
information
say,
than what
like,
we were
he's not
provided.
just
so.
a secretary. He's in almost every decision I've made over the last few years.
That's
And
good to know, because I don't see a letter of recommendation or support for that role. So I was going to bring that up as well. I see your previous recommendation, but it would have been good to see a current one with more information from you on what he has been doing as well.
I think you're right, and I think that was conveyed to the council via email as well. With all of, we try to put together a list of all the things he is doing to show the executive functions that he's already doing. And I will just tell you, again, I know it's abrupt for me to leave, but I thought this was a good time to leave because the city doesn't have any union contracts this year. It's not an election year. Projects are finishing up, and the next round of projects, which Ben is already in at the beginning, are starting up, like Beekman Street and the rail trail and Melzinga Dam, which he's already been involved with. So I would just say I think he's done this job when I'm gone. I can trust that Ben will be wise and he'll be judicious about what he does.
I think a point of clarification is that I think the title of secretary to the mayor is not reflective of the role that Ben has had in the city for the past couple of years and my experience with him. So I completely understand where you're coming from. It's like, oh, this is the person that handles the mayor's calendar, but that really isn't the role that Ben has played. I want to say since he's started.
It's the day he began.
I had a little bit of a gap, but so just I think to clarify that, and I do certainly wish that we had gotten the deputy city administrator role done sooner as well, but I'm glad we have one now. Hopefully that helps with a little bit of context. The other thing that I would say is that I'm strongly supportive of making sure that we backfill the deputy city administrator role as soon as possible, maybe concurrently to this transition occurring, because there are duties that we expected of the deputy city administrator role that are very important and that we don't want to see fall through the cracks, specifically in light of the conversation we just had around housing. So, we have a professional HR person. I would really love to see the posting or the backfill occur so that there is a transition that happens as quickly as possible to Chris's retirement for a new deputy city administrator to be here as well.
Yeah, I second that that statement, because there's so many things. I think in light of what we talked about at our last meeting all those weeks ago about our priorities, and that's going to take somebody in an administrative deputy role who can fill them in. And Lestar, to your point, I agree. I'm super, I've very much enjoyed all of my experiences with Ben, and I'm supportive of this move, and I've worked with him on the traffic safety committee since he began, and he jumped right in with traffic safety and instills with me confidence. I do wish we had a little bit more information in our packet and our agenda, like just also to share with the public and to make sure that we feel like if we're making the decision without going out into the community to hire someone, that we all feel very confident. Ben has my vote of confidence here, so that's what I'd like to say.
Yeah, I just want to review, we will get the resume. I was surprised it wasn't in there, so, but I just want to review the bullets on the one attachment on the current managerial roles of the deputy city administrator. These did not start in December. These have been going on for several years, right? And just reading down the list, it was sort of put the emergency SNAP program together, put together a central housing resources page, and to coordinate a Know Your Rights seminar, basically the housing coordinator role that we talked about in budgeting. That neither of those is something that the assistant to the mayor would have done in the old days. Runs the entire Climate Smart program, including coordinating with the Climate Smart coordinator, but also the successful $2 million grant for the Milzinga Dam Reservoir. Took us a few rounds, but we got it. The EV charging stations, the smart energy grants of almost $1 million. Runs the composting program, oversees and interacts with the Conservation Advisory Committee, the Traffic Safety Committee, other committees. Does intergovernmental committees as well, including the County Transportation Council that our planners just referred to. Attends the meetings with department heads, takes over a number of the actions involving follow-ups with our department heads, deals with our court system because we share this building and we need to do our reimbursements, manages the entire film industry licensing system, does special events, manages our videographer, deals with communications, not exclusively, manages the Rave 911 calls, deals with constituent communications. I just want to walk through that list. None of those would be in the job description of an assistant for mayor. All of them are in a job description for a deputy city administrator. I'm in agreement with Amber and Carolyn that our task is not about the city administrator position. We dealt with that by creating the succession planning of that position and creating that position. What we need to do now is backfill the deputy city administrator so that we're again in a position of being able to, if there's a transition, we've got someone with the experience and the tenure to do it here.
Well, so I concur that the list of projects is impressive, and he does have that sort of hands-on experience. My concern just reading the list is more around executive experience and actually managing departments. I do see that he has been in meetings with department heads, but I guess the question is to Chris, like, how involved has he been in the decision-making day-to-day with this? Does he observe the decisions you make? And if you were to look for an external candidate, like, how important would that direct executive experience sort of be to you?
That's a good question. I think that he has been involved with most of the decision making. When we have things that come in that need to be fielded, like someone makes a complaint, for instance, recently we had damage from the snowstorms, and Ben and I will sit down with the department head and we'll figure out what precedent are we creating. If we do this one way or another, what are the unintended consequences? Ben will often follow up with the department or departments to make sure they get things done. So when we're getting calls about sidewalks not being cleared or properties that aren't adhering to code, he'll often figure out where it goes and he'll follow up with that person independent of me. And then sometimes when we have policy considerations, we'll talk that out. That's been particularly involved for Ben in the film stuff. We actually brought in the Hudson Valley Film Commission to figure out what are reasonable fees to charge, what are the entities that we would deal with, and how do other communities deal with them. And Ben has put together really a multi-pronged way of thinking about these so that it's, fee for public inconvenience. We make sure it benefits our businesses. We make sure it doesn't happen on peak times like on Main Street. And what I've seen is Ben's actually developed the system on that. Similarly with special events, we always have to think, if we do this for this person, what do we do for the next person? And Ben is very good at taking that to abstraction and then coming up with the concrete policy to follow through on. And I will tell you this, one of the reasons we wanted to do this tonight is because a lot of the department heads and a lot of the staff are concerned about where the city goes now. I've had a very good run, and many of them are a bit confused that I'm leaving now. And I think having been in gives them a lot of reassurance. They trust Ben, and they respect Ben, and they listen to Ben. And I have tried to set that up successfully, and I think I have. And I know Ben has stepped into that role gracefully and unequivocally.
I have worked with Ben for probably about 4 years as a chair of Conservation Advisory Committee. And, as the mayor has mentioned, Ben implements and runs Climate Smart program in Beacon, which brought a lot of benefits to us as a city and to the community at large. All my interactions were always with him very professional. There was always a follow-up, and like any conflicts or issues that arose were always, thoughtfully dealt with. So I am in full support of Ben stepping up to the city administrative position. I do want to make a note for the residents that according to our code, there is no requirement for a public search for the administrators. The code only states that the mayor shall appoint, and that's where we are. I do share the concern that Amber brought up about the portfolio that Ben was carrying to have careful hands to keep carrying it, especially the housing coordinator position, or the portfolio around housing that was discussed by the previous council in I guess was November, December of the last year.
Okay, thank you. Other comments from folks?
I'll share that I've worked with Ben almost as long as Chris and Lee, first through chairing the HRC and then serving on council. We started on nearly the same day, and I absolutely appreciate the points that other council members have made, that some of the information about Ben's work history could have been made more public, and I think I'm glad to hear that that's going to be remedied. But from my privileged position as somebody who's gotten to work with him, I do know him to be incredibly capable, and fully believe that he can take on this position and will do a good job. This is anecdotal, but to the point, Chris, you made, I've also heard from department heads that they do support this transition, that, as you said, they trust Ben, they respect Ben, and they listen to Ben, and I think having that's a huge endorsement, more than I think what anyone here on council has to say, that the people who he would lead want to work with him. And I would also say that I agree with the desire for a public search to backfill the deputy position, and to do that sooner rather than later. I think that's our opportunity for widespread community engagement, and to really make sure people are aware that there is this opportunity. But for the higher level leadership, we have set up this transition, and I think that this is a good one. And want to agree with the desire to make sure whoever we do hire for that backfilled position is ready to take on some of the newer duties that we had given Ben, including the housing coordinator list of ideas that we had, some of the other council priorities, and can really take up the administrative burden of us going into our comprehensive plan and all of the other priorities we've been discussing as a council. But am ready to vote on this when we get to that section of the meeting myself.
And I think that was an important piece that was missed as well. It would have been nice to know that the other department heads were in support of this as well.
Yeah, I can tell you anecdotally, last week or the week before, I saw 3 department heads and 3 of the senior-most department heads within an hour, and they all said the same thing. One of them happens to be in the room. They really wanted Ben to do it, right? And they were looking forward to that. And that was very clear to me when I made that decision. So I don't know who's in the room, but whatever.
I had a similar, the day after you announced your retirement, and we were dealing with our own reactions to that. I spoke to a department head who might have said something akin to, "If it's Ben, it's going to be okay." But I feel like if we keep saying nice things about Ben, he's going to just suddenly say 15 seconds on us. So we might want to just keep that in mind. And who's going to, wield that mighty power if he's elsewhere?
Well, I was hoping for a cameo once in a while. I could call in from the Appalachian Trail and
I like
go 15 seconds.
Yeah, this is what we had in mind, right? And if we get the right, before Swanson came along, we didn't have this opportunity, right? And it was sort of a gift from on high that we got an application for the assistant to the mayor, who was someone of that caliber wanting to come in and to find an entry point into municipal administration. And, we saw that as an opportunity. We took advantage of it because he could take on lots of responsibility. And we developed a position thinking that this would be the way to do the transition. It's not exactly what the charter had in mind, because the charter assumed that we would not have a succession plan within the organization and we would go out looking for someone. But in fact, that's what we enacted at the end of the last term, and therefore, as long as the council is on board, this is the recommendation, and then the search will go on for filling that slot to develop the next person to take on that role again. So,
Yep, I'm
right?
on board.
Everyone good?
I do, well, when we vote, can we demand the band come out here and make?
Yes, I think that's right.
Okay, all right.
Absolutely.
And Ben is posting his resume now, so it will be up very shortly. And one of the things I don't think is in the memo is Ben has a law degree from NYU and also has a finance degree from Iowa State University. I think it's one of the major universities in Iowa. So he's when he got here, he already had some real credentials, and then he showed what he could do. And I really appreciate you considering this. I know this has been abrupt, and one of the things that I'm most dedicated to is leaving the people, the great team that I get to work with somebody that's just going to continue to respect them and work with them in the way that we have the last 5 years, because we've been doing really well, and I think Ben can continue that and build on it.
We appreciate your
and not be part of the hot
power.
table. Yeah, well.
Oh no.
All right.
Okay. We ready to go to the next one? Okay. So this is the appointments of within the police department. I just want the chief to come up. Thank you, Tom.
More peaceful transitions of power.
How are you? Thank you. So nobody asked me, but as a department head, I will confirm that Ben's role in the city has been certainly larger than it appears, right? He's, anytime a person has a concern about the police department and it goes to the mayor, Ben's kind of the one following up on it, fielding it. He doesn't just pass it along, he asks follow-up questions. His experience in the DA's office, he's been able to kind of ask, good follow-up questions. He's been in our recent meetings discussing, actual, operations in the police department. So he's bringing a lot to the table there, so.
Thank you for that.
If you care.
I
mentioned department head, so I just wanted to confirm.
I was considering asking if
It is
you had
true.
an opinion, but I didn't want to embarrass you.
Well, and I'll tell you, the fire chief has been out, and he called, and he was upset that I was retiring, and he goes, "Is Ben at least taking over?" So, and he was well assured after I said, "We think so."
All right.
So, another retirement that we have coming up, on April 25th, I think some of you guys already know Lieutenant Confield's going to be retiring. This is going to leave a lieutenant position vacant, as well as other ranks that will need to then be backfilled as we elevate people up. While we're sad to see him retire, this also creates an opportunity to reorganize the administration in a way that more clearly defines the roles of the command staff in the department. It also opens us an eventual expansion of our detective division, which recent events have shown is understaffed. Today I'm proposing that we not only backfill the soon-to-be vacant uniform lieutenant position, but that we elevate the role of detective sergeant to the rank of lieutenant. This rank is more in line with the duties that position includes, which is supervising all felony investigations, maintaining a budget, being a liaison with high-ranking officials from other departments during coordinated investigations, and basically being on call 24/7 for any kind of need that our on-call detectives have. If they need a supervisor, the guy they're calling, no matter what, we have one guy, and it's him. So this would return us to a structure of having 3 lieutenants under the chief. We would have 1 for patrol and traffic operations, 1 for administration, training, professional standards, and 1 for investigations. This would put us more in line with organizational best practices and with accreditation requirements for clearly defined authorities. In order to expand the detective division, when a patrol sergeant who has been out on long-term injury and is assigned as a supplemental midnight sergeant retires, we would then move his position into the detective division in order to have another supervisor there and also expand its ranks. These changes are a reorganization and do not require any more total personnel than we already have now, making the impact on the budget negligible. Under this plan, Lieutenant Vargas would continue in his role supervising patrol operations and take on supervising traffic operations as well. And then I'm proposing the following promotions.
Chief, may I ask a clarifying question before we talk about the personnel?
Sure.
So is the intent here that there is no longer a detective sergeant role? That role does not exist and doesn't need to be backfilled. In lieu of that, we now have these, I think, 3 lieutenants?
No, the intent is then to take that sergeant position that is, it's occupied, but it's not coming to work.
Okay.
And when that becomes unoccupied, move it into the detective division.
Okay. So the detective sergeant position still exists? That's
It
what
would
I was
still
unclear
exist,
on.
but
It's
Okay.
not being filled.
Got it, yes.
It's just not being filled until we have that vacancy, because I'm not going to short shifts to do it, but when we get an opportunity, I'd like to take advantage of it.
Okay, thank you.
So Detective Sergeant Thomas Durkin would be promoted to lieutenant supervising investigations. Detective Sergeant Durkin's been with the City of Beacon since 2014 when he started as a part-time police dispatcher. He's a Beacon High School graduate, and prior to working here as a dispatcher, he actually completed an internship with the department while attaining his bachelor's degree in sociology from Mount St. Mary College. In September 2015, he was appointed as a police officer here in Beacon. Prior to being promoted to detective sergeant in July of 2024, he worked as a field training officer and then a detective. While a detective, he was the department's evidence custodian, which is a tremendous responsibility that involves accounting for every piece of evidence and every piece of property that the department takes in. In his current position, Detective Sergeant Durkin has managed the budget for the detective division, supervised every case the detective division handles, and has been more or less on call 24/7 in case they need a supervisor after hours. Detective Sergeant Durkin also helped organize this year's Youth Academy. Since taking command of the detective division, he also oversaw the arrest of 3 of the 4 suspects in the murder of Lionel Pittman and the department's participation in the trial and conviction of the first suspect to go to trial. That was after less than 30 minutes of jury deliberations, so it was an extremely well-prosecuted case. I'm also recommending Sergeant Alyssa Rudden to fill Lieutenant Confield's upcoming vacancy, to be in charge of administration, training, and professional standards. Sergeant Rudden has been with the Beacon Police Department since May of 2017, having previously worked as a police officer in Saugerties and then in the city of Poughkeepsie. She holds a bachelor's degree in sociology from Mount St. Mary. It's a common thread. During her tenure in our department, she has worked as a patrol officer, a field training officer, and a detective. In June of 2024, she was promoted to the rank of patrol sergeant and supervised a patrol shift since that time. She recently completed New York State Accreditation Manager training. She's a general topics instructor who teaches sexual harassment and workplace violence prevention, as well as disability awareness. And she's also a certified instructor in the use of pepper spray and tailored electronic control devices. In the last year, Sergeant Rudden's helped organize our Youth Academy, assisted with renewing our accreditation, and coordinated the successful inspection of our cell block by the New York State Department of Corrections and Community Supervision. To fill the patrol sergeant's position that would be vacated by Sergeant Rudden, I'm proposing that we promote Detective Ryan Sambles to the rank of sergeant. Detective Sambles is a U.S. Army veteran and began with the department in December 2018. He was actually hired while attending the Dutchess County Police Academy as a part-time deputy sheriff. So we got one away from somebody. He worked diligently in patrol and was assigned to the as a field training officer and bike patrol officer. As a police officer, he received a commendation for saving the life of a woman who had attempted suicide. Since being promoted to detective, he's successfully completed multiple investigative trainings, has regularly handled felony investigations, and has managed the department's sex offender registry. In his capacity as a patrol sergeant, he would supervise a patrol shift and then take on some administrative duties within the department. Finally, to fill the detective position that would be vacated by Detective Sambles, I'm recommending the promotion of Jonathan Underwood to the rank of detective. Officer Underwood is a Beacon High School graduate and has an associate's degree in criminal justice. He was hired by the department as a police officer in June of 2022. As a patrol officer, he served as a field training officer and was recently awarded for his efforts to move injured victims to safety during a fatal house fire last year. Of all of our officers, he is the one for whom I receive the most civilian compliments. By their nature, people rarely take the time to write in when they're happy. But Officer Underwood has made an impression in the community as a helpful and understanding officer. He has done this while also maintaining a reputation in the department for never shying away from carrying out his duties. Since January, Detective Milani has actually been out on parental leave, and during that time, Officer Underwood has been assigned to the detective division to fill in for her. He's performed admirably and received high praise from his supervisor and colleagues. He's well prepared to take on the role investigating important cases where he's already excelling. In summary, thank you for your consideration of this reorganization and for these critical and well-deserved promotions. While transitions are difficult and we will miss Lieutenant Confield's experience, it will create an exciting opportunity to continue to move the department forward.
I just want to clarify something that you asked about, and I asked the same question, which is the net cost of promoting the detective sergeant to the detective lieutenant position is the only financial impact.
Okay.
The delta.
Yeah, I just wasn't clear with the changes if like a position was going away. I understand a little bit better now. And then with the creation of the new lieutenant, is there anything, new lieutenant positions, is there anything we have to do from a civil service perspective? I feel like in the past we had to like get approval for roles or something.
No, we
That's
have
not-
vacant civil service.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
and we're not creating a detective lieutenant, which is a different position.
Okay.
We're just creating another lieutenant. So we also didn't have to negotiate a new union agreement with
Got it. Okay.
the terms of that.
Thank you. This is a lot to take in, obviously, I'm like a little, but I will say in general, I think it's really wonderful that the members of our police department are getting opportunities for advancement, and I'm very happy that we're able to do that, and so thank you for kind of pulling this together and figuring out a path forward, and to Lieutenant Confield, I thank him for his service, and I wish him well in his retirement.
Thank you. And thank you on his behalf. He'll be here next week. So.
Yeah. Oh, good. Okay.
We'll be
Excuse
honoring
me,
him.
not next week, but the
Okay.
next week.
It'll give me my chance. I just realized I mentioned the Traffic Safety Committee in every meeting, and it could start like a drinking game, but I've known Lieutenant Confield from the Traffic Safety Committee, and it's been a pleasure to have him there. And he's brought a wealth of knowledge, so, and I love that we are able to promote people from within. I actually just have is there an organizational chart of the police department, like just how many sergeants and detectives and?
Yeah, it's actually on the website.
I could
We
look
have
on the
like
website.
Sorry?
I am a librarian. I probably should have done my due diligence to look at that ahead of time. But yeah, 'cause I'd be
There's
interested
a
to see
typo
how-
on it, though. You know who found it?
Molly?
Ben.
That just
There
put
it
such a
is.
bow on it. I can't say anything else. That's perfect.
I'm going to ask for you, who will be serving on the Traffic Safety Committee moving forward?
Lieutenant Vargas is going to be doing that. A lot of the requests actually come from the speed signs and stuff, and he's already managing those, so it makes sense to kind of move him into patrol and traffic operations.
And on the money side, I do want to just give the chief credit for managing our overtime budget so well. We are down over 100 hours of overtime each week of this past year, of this year so far.
That's huge.
So we knew we had to raise salaries in order to attract people, and we were going to have a couple hard years, and we are finally seeing the results of that.
Yeah, that's great news. Thank you.
And well done.
Yeah, we'll do an annual report. I've been a little
Coming up
sidetracked.
soon.
But we will do that soon. And, one of the things I was going to point out is we managed to hire 6 officers last year. So
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
we've had a
Really
really
great.
good turnaround.
And we're getting good officers.
Thank
All
you
right.
so much.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Great job.
Next one's a quick one. So I will be recommending Gary Barrick to be appointed to the Zoning Board of Appeals. Gary was on our planning board for a number of years and came off the planning board when I came on and is willing to go to the ZBA. He knows it's a little less busy than the planning board, which was taking a lot. And so I was just pleased to announce someone with, actually sat on the planning board and has a lot of experience with our zones to be willing to join the Zoning Board of Appeals. And it's filling the slot that Elaine Chacha said that she'd be retiring from. Any comments?
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
With the appointments to zoning board and like all these different boards that you're making, are you going out to proactively find people? Or are you getting applications in? I know that the application is open on the website for all of the different boards. So how are you picking?
So mostly I'm begging. It would be nice if we, had more. There's also like a couple of them, the Board of Assessment review, those have to be filled within a time frame. And so that was part of it. I think we should probably do a little bit of recruiting because it'd be nice to have a bevy of people. I think we got a bunch of applications a few years ago and they kind of like petered out. So I think we should do another call and I'll figure out how to do that, right? Because we should have people who have signed up for all of them, right? And we tend not to right now. Right, so I'll arrange something like a call soon, all right?
Yeah, I would agree that that's an important strategy, that we keep having these vacancies, and I know it's sort of, you're trying to stay ahead of it and get people in as soon as possible, but getting into a proactive stance of recruiting people and having people in the bench and know about the committees, I think would be great. Maybe our local newspaper would publish something about our committees.
Yeah. All right.
I will also just say Gary's resume was quite impressive. He's done lots of things in this community.
He really has.
Yeah.
He's been involved in quite a lot. So
Yeah.
I'm appreciative of him wanting to continue.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Next one is the sidewalk on Wolcott Avenue, and Chris, you'll take us through the bids.
Yes, and for the folks tuning in, I just wanted to tell people where this is. This is on Wolcott Avenue, Route 9D, between South Avenue, where we ended our sidewalk project a couple years ago, and the Beacon Housing Authority entrance. It's a replacement of 560 linear feet of sidewalk that's going to be 5 feet wide, ADA compliant, with 3 new ADA curb ramps. We put this out to bid, and bids came back on March 12th with 9 bids coming in, which is very good. The apparent low bidder ended up backing out because they didn't have the time. They ended up scheduling too much work. And we went to the second low bidder, which was Woodland Manor LLC out of Putnam County, and their bid was $193,946. That's below the engineer estimate. It's a little bit above what we have for CDBG, but we also have money in the capital program to do that. So we're going to have to put in about $26,000 of city money, and the rest of it will be reimbursed by the people that came and gave the presentation.
Is this a new contractor for us? They
It
don't
is a
sound
new
familiar.
contractor, but they had extensive work doing sidewalk for municipalities, and we called references, and they had just stellar references.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
All good? All right, so you're also going to talk to us about the county hazard mitigation plan.
Yes, and I appreciate some members of the council sending information about this. We've updated that. I did want to give some background and context on this. The county has to do an update of their hazard mitigation plan every so often, and they started this process 3 years ago. I went back and looked in the record, and in July of 2023 is when we had the first meetings about this. By early 2024, they had sent us drafts that had been in effect for Beacon previously, and some of the stuff was outdated, some of it we just couldn't even find information on. So we did our best to update that, send it back to them by July of 2024. Then they sent us another draft in May of last year, and we thought it was done. We sent it around, everybody did pieces of it, and then we just got this back. I hadn't reviewed it, but now I have reviewed all of it, and I've made changes. It's still not perfect, but the reason we're adopting this is so that they have the community approval for this jurisdiction plan, and the jurisdiction plan and their hazard mitigation plan underlie our ability to get future disaster aid. So some of you remember in 2021 we had the remnants of Hurricane Ida and it washed out Pocket Road, and we were able to get $65,000 in compensation back for cleaning that up and really making it more resilient. If we weren't in this hazard mitigation plan and we didn't adopt our jurisdictional annex, we wouldn't be eligible for it. And I'm sorry for the timeline on this. They sent it to me the day after the last meeting, and then they've been pressing like, hey, when are you going to pass this? And I was like, well, we don't even have a meeting till tonight, but we'll try to pass it. So again, I would just ask you to please look at it and not let the perfect be the enemy of the good. I know it's not perfect, but it's so much better than it was when we got it.
And Chris, what is the process for future edits? Like if we adopt this tonight and we find errors 6 months from now, what's the process for editing it or updating it?
We are going to have to ask Ben that.
Okay, if we get edits in the next 6 weeks, what would you do?
There are some things that matter and there are some things that don't matter.
Mm-hmm.
And we make decisions every day as an administration to do the things that matter and not do anything that really doesn't matter. Getting this in matters because it determines eligibility. Whether or not there's a fact missing or something slightly off honestly doesn't matter. They don't even really reference this. We were never asked about this when we went for our disaster aid in 2021. So again, I like things to be perfect, but I also recognize some things don't need to be perfect. I would say you probably don't want to do another round of edits until the next time you do this. Because there's nothing
remind me
that...
how often that is?
It depends when the county does it. I thought we would be done with this in 2024, and then it's still coming back 2 years later. So I don't know what happened. We had this consultant, Tetra Tech, working with us, and then they just went silent for a long time. So I think it's every 5 years, but I'm not sure about that. Most of these plans are.
That makes sense.
And again, I think there's more comprehensive emergency planning that needs to be done locally. Luckily, we don't have anywhere near the scale or scope of the disaster stuff that I've dealt with in other communities. Like when I worked up in the Catskills, we had areas that were just, I mean, you'd lose 5 to 10 structures along a creek. And thank goodness we don't have that.
Yeah.
As a person who worries about weather all the time and like catastrophic events, and I think this is a fantastic resource in addition to what we need to vote on and what we need to approve to get FEMA funding. And that's why I wish it were fully accurate, just be for like the resource purpose of it, if we needed to use it as a basis of a emergency planning document. I think I really enjoyed, I wish I had more time to be with it, because I enjoyed reading it and learning about all the different, like putting our resources in our city in this format. And I think that is important to have this as a handy guide if we do encounter any one of these emergencies, and also knowing what we should prioritize. Like, knowing that like a volcano threat is not imminent here, just eliminating one threat is just.
If you had any doubts, we're okay on volcanoes.
But just also just seeing the like what's a moderate risk, what's a serious risk, this is a very helpful document to know that kind of information.
And from a practical stance, our emergency operations really, something happens like a flood, or we don't go, where's that plan? What are we going to do? We react, and our staff know what to do. You stabilize the situation, you work with the city engineer to figure out what you do to build back better, like we did with Pocket Road. We doubled the depth of that road, and we made the drainage vastly improved so that it wouldn't flood again and it wouldn't wash out.
Yeah.
And again, luckily, there's a small amount of things that could go wrong. You'll see talk about the dams failing. Well, the prior councils have already authorized, and we've already completed the rehabilitation of Mount Beacon Dam and Pocket Dam. We're about to rehabilitate Melzinga Dam, which is our high hazard dam. Again, it's not in Beacon, but it still would affect everybody downstream. So I think you're well lined up to finish a lot of these. And honestly, when we were going through thinking about the hazards, most of them are just nuisance, like water sits on the road in this one area, but it doesn't really impact anybody's basement.
Yeah.
So.
Thanks for the context on this exercise. So.
Thanks, and thank you for just passing it. I thought we were done last year with this.
All right, so, and then the last item, and I think, Nick, you're going to take us through this, is, again, something on the hotel motel tax, right?
I am, speaking of things that we thought we were done with.
Yes, exactly.
So this is positive. The city is authorized to have an occupancy tax, and it needs to be renewed, and this is the year that it needs to be renewed by the state. Legislation adopted by or proposed by the state had it being extended for 2 years. The Senate and Assembly bills have now been amended by the State and Assembly to provide for it to be renewed in 3 years. Because they've made that change, expanding from 2 to 3 years, the City Council needs to adopt a home rule requesting that specific legislation be adopted.
Okay. So this is essentially no different than what we did a couple of weeks ago, except that it's for 3 years instead of 2, which
exactly
sounds good.
Exactly.
Cool.
Everybody good?
Yeah.
All right, so shall we move on to reports? And then we'll go to the formal meeting? All right. Where do we want to start? We want to start with Traffic Safety Committee? Carolyn?
Wait, did I go to the traffic safety?
Anybody who's doing a drinking game, you should stop now.
It's
lose.
hydrating. Everybody is very hydrated.
Considering mostly I drink seltzer, I mean, yeah, please drink seltzer. It's delicious. All right, so does that mean we're joking? Should I?
Go for it.
Go for it. Okay, cool. So yes, there was a Traffic Safety Committee meeting, and thank you to everyone who came out to that. The next one is April 24th, I think. We have another meeting before then, so I'll get that exactly. Also, we had Yvette Valdez-Smith and I had a community conversation on March 22nd, so at the library. I appreciate everyone who came to that. I don't have another one scheduled yet. We're looking for probably early May. And I also just wanted to take a minute to thank the Highway Department. I was able to get a tour of the Highway Department, and it is amazing what they have and what they have the capability of doing, and like keeping our streets clean and safe. And I really appreciate the time that they spent with the tour. So I will be happy to talk to anyone about details about that. And that is all I have.
And we'll be doing that tour for any of you who want to stay after the ribbon cutting of the solar panels on April 23rd.
Okay.
So, and we'll make another time if you can't make that.
All right. As long as the vacuum truck is there, I'll stay.
We'll see.
All right.
Ben will have to decide.
Very good. I'll bribe him with bags of leaves. anyway, sorry, we're getting loopy. My only thing is that the annual Earth Day cleanup is in 2 weeks on April 18th. You can sign up with the Green Beacon Coalition on one of their several sites. The cleanup is from 9 to noon, and then from noon to 3, there is the Earth Day Fair at the Hudson Valley Brewery, where you can learn about all kinds of things about how you can celebrate the earth that we live on. If you want extra bonus points, Fairground is accepting donations of plants, which will support their annual plant sale. You can text Jamie at 845-375-7194 if you want to donate plants. Jamie can also tell you all about all of the food justice programs that Fairground has going on. And I'll leave it at that.
Nothing from me this week, thank you.
I'll also keep it short. I wanted to thank the Dutchess County Planning and Development Board for their presentation. I found their Affordable Housing Strategy Series document. It is very hefty with links and relevant information, which I very much appreciate, and I appreciate them providing that. I will definitely be reading that in my spare time this week. That's all I got.
I don't have anything, just for me, my office hours are the same. I'm available when you're available, so call, text, email, and I'll set up to meet with you individually.
Sergey?
Hello. Hello, everyone from Vilnius in Lithuania. After about 8 days here and close to 80 miles of walking and jogging and hundreds of crossings, every single car stopped at every single intersection. This is a lot for us to look up for, and I hope we'll get there. I have good news to share about Beacon Institute and the Fishkill Creek Watershed Alliance. The joint application for the Hudson River Estuary Program with DEC was granted to Beacon Institute, and part of the funds will go towards replicating DEC level regulatory sampling on the lower section of Fishkill Creek, sort of between town of Fishkill and estuary at Hudson River, and this will complement the DEC sampling, 2-year program sampling that finished last year, and it will make Fishkill Creek the first one of the very first fully assessed creeks in Hudson estuary. Riverkeeper will be acting as our science advisor, and we will also create a part-time watershed coordinator position and do some student outreach as part of this grant. Talking about the creek, I would like to hear an update on aluminum sulfate spill and whether any follow-up monitoring has happened, and I will kind of repeat Columbus' appeal to everybody. Please join the cleanup. It's a festive and great event on April 18. It's a tradition, and together we make Beacon even cleaner and more beautiful.
Okay, thank you. Just a couple of things. One is I have an appointment. So the Beacon Housing Authority is a separate body, and it's a federal agency that runs the Forestville Heights and the Hamfish Plaza facilities. The mayor has a sole appointment to their board. One of their members, their time is up, and I'm just reappointing Gwen Outlar Davis to that board. She lives at 5 Spencer Lane off of Route 52. Just so you know, there's a new executive director. She's been there a couple of years, Veronica Shetter, and they're still sort of sorting out, where they're heading. I have tended to just reappoint members rather than feel like I want to do any wholesale changes, mostly out of respect for the organization. The one new appointment I've had over the last 7 years has been Vicki Blucher, who was a resident of the facility, and she's also a board member now. Vicki and helps run the Beacon Reads program, so you've probably met her there. Anyway, so I'm just announcing the appointment of Gwendolyn Outlaw Davis, and it's a reappointment to the Beacon Housing Authority. It's one of the very few appointments that only the mayor makes. It's not a council approval. It's a function of how that federal agency got set up. I do note that we have talked to them about trying to get them to build some additional housing, knowing that they have access to funding. They kind of backed away from it a little bit. They may come back to it again, but we'll see. But we're very encouraging. One of the things we can do is adjust their zoning at their existing spots to permit it. I think they're already set for that, but we can also explore that. But they have to be willing, obviously. The only other thing is I won't be around for Earth Day. Ben has taken on sort of some of the organizing for that, and I'm appreciative. I will be away visiting family for Greek Easter. And then I also note that April is Autism Awareness Month. I'm exploring the possibility, Rhinebeck did this, of getting a training program for first responders and also merchants on how one might work with people in the spectrum. So if I can find some if I can find some information on that and some funding, I'll come back to you on that. And that's all I got. Chris?
The Deputy City Administrator has asked me to announce that on May 11th at 5:30, we'll be doing a Know Your Rights session with the Hudson Valley Justice Center about housing. So that will be right here in the city courtroom, and it will be on our calendar. But again, it's May 11th. 5:30 in the city courtroom, and that will be videoed so that it will be a resource on our website as well. I want to let people know that we are going to be completing the Fishkill Avenue work by the end of this month and beginning of May. We have 4 pedestrian activated flashing beacons that are going to be installed in the next few weeks. By Memorial Park. There's a few incidental signs that are going to be put in, a couple panels of sidewalk that need to be replaced where people thought it would be fun to walk through wet cement. And then we will be milling the rest of the road all the way to the Fishkill border the last week of April, and then paving it and striping it. So the end is in sight, and we appreciate all the patience. On the leak of aluminum sulfate into the Fishkill Creek, we have addressed the leak that same day that it was detected. The New York State DEC was on site doing inspections with us. We used our vac truck over the next few days to clean up any residue that was coming out, and we identified the broken conduit pipe where it had escaped the plant, and that's being repaired. So I think it was minimal, if any, threat to the creek. In context, this was 3,000 gallons. We have an estimated flow of about 1 million gallons an hour in the Fishkill Creek at this time of year. So it dissipated fairly quickly, and we saw no results of fish, and we were monitoring for that. The last item I have is that I haven't announced publicly that I'm retiring, but I think maybe you've guessed that. I did update the council in the last meeting in executive session that after more than 5 years, I have decided to retire, and I just wanted to thank the mayor, the council, all of the department heads and the staff for the incredible support I've had in these years here. It has been an incredible honor to do this position, and I am absolutely thrilled that Ben is going to build on what we've done here over the last few years. So, thank you.
I just have a quick question. Is the flyer, is there a flyer for the Know Your Rights on May 11th?
We'll get a flyer for it, yeah. I just found out by text that I had to announce that, so I'm catching up too here.
Okay, we're ready to do our resolutions. All right, so first one is resolution appointing Ben Swanson to the position of city administrator. Can I get a motion and a second?
Motion.
It's a tie. Who wants it?
Paloma, and I'll second.
All right, so
Can I make a
Wake
third?
and Grant, is that all right?
Yes.
Any discussion? All right, so.
Here he is. You have to enter. Come on.
This is the most spruced up I've seen you in a long time.
I know, Ben, you know there is a requirement that you do have to sit at the table with us. Are you going to be able to?
Can't wait.
Okay.
We're going to work on shaving his head, too, before it starts.
We'll see about that one.
It's a real, like, polar opposite, kind of.
In temperament as well.
Did you have any comments you wanted to make?
I do. I just want to make sure the microphone is working. So I just want to say good evening to all of you, Mayor, council members, Nick, and everyone in the Beacon community who's tuning in now or will watch later. I'll keep my remarks brief because it's late for us here now at least. But I wanted to thank you all for your trust for this opportunity. I am so honored to be appointed as the city administrator and for the confidence that you all are placing in me to continue Beacon's amazing momentum forward. I've had the pleasure of getting to know the community pretty intimately these past years. It's not lost on me how special working and living here is. I look forward to rolling my sleeves up and continuing the important work that you all are doing in this room, as well as what we do in City Hall day to day. So thank you, Lee. I know this is your appointment in the first instance. It means a lot to me that you brought my name forward. Chris, I wanted to thank you and wish you well in your retirement. Just know that many in the city will be missing you a lot, including almost everyone who works here. We wish you a lot of amazing adventures ahead. Thank you to both of you and Nick for being wonderful mentors to me since I started back in 2021. And thank you all council members for being inspiring and tireless advocates for the community. Lastly, I want to thank the department heads and my colleagues who I work with day to day for their really incredible work that they do. And I said lastly, but I actually mean lastly, the person I really need to thank most is my partner Leah, who has been my most important confidant in my life and career, and for her tireless support over the years, and lots and lots and lots of patience. Thank you all, and I look forward to everything ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben.
Thank you.
The only comment I will make, and I may have said this once in council, but I've said it several times, I had to figure out, we're going to have an opening, what do we do? And I said to folks, I just need a couple days to think about it with respect to Ben, and I realized very quickly I'd already crossed my bridge when we appointed him deputy city administrator. And we created the position, we decided then, again, it's a little sooner than I had expected, but Chris wants to get on and do some hiking, so it's all right. And there's no question in my mind you're the right person. So, thank you.
Well, should we vote?
You ready?
Yeah.
All right. So, all in favor of appointing Benjamin Swanson to the position of city administrator, subject to? Is there a date that we need to attach to it?
No, it's in the resolution that it's when the retirement takes effect.
All right,
When I go hiking.
All right. Okay. Very good. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Sergey?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Okay, one down.
Thank you again.
Congratulations.
Thanks, Ben.
This is the quickest transition, or at least decision to a transition, and it's exactly what we had in mind. So, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next one is the appointment of Thomas Durkin to the position of police lieutenant. I need a motion and a second.
Motion.
Second.
So Zach and Carolyn, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you. Yeah, that's your cue. I'm not even going to ask you. Just after we vote, make sure I hear the aye or the nay.
It's a little delay on
Yeah, I know. Lithuania is 7 hours, is that right, or 6?
About 7.
About 7. So it's 4 in the morning?
When we started, it was 6,
Yep.
6, 7.
4 in the morning.
He's like,
All right.
maybe you could stop asking me what time.
All right, let's get these over with. The next one, I need a motion and a second to appoint Alyssa Rudden to the position of police lieutenant.
Motion.
So Amber and Paloma.
We have our favorites.
Hearing no further discussion, all in favor say aye.
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 There you go.
Yeah.
All right, next one, I need a motion and a second appointing Ryan Sambles to the position of police sergeant.
Motion.
And I will second that, so I get to once in a while. So that's Zach and Lee. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll have them all come when they get sworn in. Say aye. Aye. Sergey?
Aye.
Thank you. The next one, I need a motion and a second to appoint Jonathan Underwood to the position of detective.
Motion?
Second.
So that's Carolyn and Zach. Hearing no discussion, all in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you. The next one, I need a motion and a second to appoint Gary Barrick to the Zoning Board of Appeals.
Motion.
Second.
So,
Lestar.
Lestar and
Amber.
Amber? Okay, thank you. I got mixed up on my left.
This is like the Jeopardy buzzer.
Sometimes I can't distinguish, I'm getting old. All right. All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you. And the next one, I'm looking for a motion a second to award a contract to Woodland Manor LLC, and this is for the sidewalk replacement on Wolcott Avenue in front of South Avenue School.
Motion.
No, not in front of South Avenue.
Oh, I'm sorry. This
That's
is
the next
this is
project.
Wolcott. Sorry.
But if you want to approve that tonight, that's a friendly amendment.
So this one is from South Avenue to
the Beacon Housing Authority.
Beacon Housing Authority.
Yeah.
Got it, sorry.
I made a motion, Zach seconded.
All right, so Amber and Zach, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. And the next one is adopting the jurisdictional annex to the Dutchess County Hazard Mitigation Plan. Can I get a
We
motion
can
in a
do
second?
this.
Motion.
Second.
So Amber and Paloma, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. And then the last one is a motion to adopt a home rule request regarding the hotel and motel tax for the city of Beacon for a 3-year extension. Can I get a motion in a second?
Motion.
Second?
So that's Lestar and Carolyn. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Oh,
Aye.
thank you. All right, so who wants to move to approve the minutes of March 16th?
Motion.
Amber
Second.
and Lestar. Any corrections, additions, changes? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the minutes of March 16th, say aye.
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 Thank you. This is the second opportunity for public comment. If you have not made a comment in the first one, this is now your opportunity. Ben, anyone in the internet?
No, Mayor.
All right, so the next meeting will be Monday, April 20th at this location at 7 p.m., and I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Second.
Amber and Paloma, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Sergey?
Aye.
Go to bed.
Good night.
Thank you.
Good night.
Have a good night, Sergey.
Do I get to keep the camera?
All right.
Recording